Whitehollow, Book 1, written by Null Day, aka VelvettB. Chapter 1, A Sonorous Knock. Midnight rolled in with the musical chime of the grandfather clock, breaking the silence in the front hall. Shah swatted at a cobweb that clung stubbornly to the underside of the overstuffed wooden chair she lay under. She loved the sound of that clock. It carried the history of her family with it, a stalwart in the face of time, whilst also telling the time. She snorted to herself, a little chuckle of amusement. Shah swung the torch around under the chair and along the wall looking for Gladys, the foolhardy ferret, her twin brother's beloved pet that had once again escaped the confines of her cage. The 12th toll of the bell echoed across the room, dwindling into peaceful silence again. Giving up on that spot, Shah started to shuffle out from under the chair when a sonorous knock echoed through the house. She startled and knocked her head against the base of the chair, which was solid wood, of course. "Ow!" Shah wiggled out from under the chair, rubbing the back of her head as she glared at the door. "Who on earth is that?" She then switched her glare to her twin brother Cooper, who stood on another of the antique chairs that she was sure were breeding when nobody was looking. He had his attention on the top of a bookshelf, another antique, because when you live in a 19th century villa, that's all you seem to have. He glanced over, then glared back. "What? It's not my fault someone took themselves out for a midnight stroll and got lost." "You could answer the door," Shah sniped. "You do it. You're closer." Coop leapt down from the chair and rubbed his eyes, leaving a dark smudge on his cheek. His dark hair, the same rich chocolate as her own, had a cobweb in it. Since he was being a jerk, she deliberately didn't say anything. Another knock rang out, and they both jumped. The pound of running footsteps echoed from down the hall, muffled at first, then slapping as they hit wooden floor, before the next of what was an interminable quantity of old rugs that were everywhere in Wittenhouse. Their dad slid into view as one of the rugs refused to stay still under the abuse of speeding feet. He slid into one of the many stacks of books that lined the hall. Shah shared a look with her brother. They knew what was coming. "Kids, I forgot to mention." Dad stopped to pan for a second, brown eyes bright with excitement. "I forgot to mention" was basically their dad's catchphrase. "My research partner is coming to visit." Shah let out a muttered ugh under her breath while Coop groaned quietly. One of their dad was bad enough. Hours upon hours of theory over dinner, but two? No thanks. Jack Whitten had been on the hunt for tenuous links and mythological hints for as long as Shah could remember. Something about a search for a lost people or unknown inhabitants of the area. Shah couldn't quite understand why it had captured their dad's interest for the last 17 years, but her dad seemed happy in the pursuit. "You can't open the door yet, Dad," Cooper said with a little edge of panic in his voice. "Gladys has escaped." Ah. Reminded that she had agreed to help her brother find the pesky critter, she moved on to the next place to check, a chase lounge that had seen better days. Searching for a ferret was a lot more interesting than whoever the over-educated boor at the door was. With her head under the seating, she could hear her dad walking toward the door as she swung the torch along the skirting board and over an alarming quantity of dust bunnies. "Achoo!" Her dad cleared his throat. "Professor Payne, would you mind waiting a minute? We've got a ferret situation." There was silence from the other side of the door. Shah popped back up. There'd been no ferret under there. "He's probably rethinking his accommodation plans," Shah said to Coop, who was checking behind the heavy couch that Shah had never been able to budge. "Or he's done a runner and the only thing left out there is a dust cloud," Coop replied with a smirk. They both laughed. "It's not funny," their dad hissed. "Find the damn ferret." Their dad opened the coat closet to peer inside. "He's flown all the way from England, you know." Shah didn't see how she could have known, since this was the first she was hearing of their intrepid midnight visitor. Used to it, though, she ignored her dad's griping and searched the gloom underneath a bookshelf that had been old 100 years ago. Shah sneezed. There was a scuffling movement right in the back corner against the wall. She directed her torch onto a pair of gleaming eyes. "There's either a rat or I've found her," Shah said, dragging herself out of the way. She brushed at the dust, which showed up horribly on her black-on-black clothes. Since it was Sunday, she could have put her pyjamas on hours ago, but had forgotten to change when she'd gotten absorbed in her book. Coop leapt down from his perch and slid onto her stomach, uncaring for once of the dust, and started making smooching, soothing noises at his pet. There was a squeak, and then a lump started moving down the back of her brother's navy polo shirt until it settled over Coop's shoulder. It surprised Shah that the ferret fit under the shirt, considering her brother's whole style aesthetic could be summarised as tight. "Do you think you can keep her caged while Professor Payne is visiting?" their dad asked with a pleading expression. He wasn't a huge fan of Gladys, so much so he'd put a moratorium on Cooper adding any more pets to his collection a few months ago. Not that Coop had listened. He'd just gotten better at hiding his rescues. Shah was looking forward to the day her brother got caught. There was so much entertainment to be had in apocalyptic rage not directed her way. Satisfied that Gladys was secure under Coop's shirt, their dad swung the door open. It was, being the middle of the night and all, dark outside. Porch light had burned out a few weeks ago, and no one had remembered to replace it yet. And if there was a moon, it was well hidden behind cloud cover. Professor Payne stepped from the midnight black into the muted light of the foyer. All Shah's expectations of a wizened old man with a pipe and a cardigan were dashed. The man, barely older than her and Coop, stood at least 3 inches over 6 foot. He stared down at her like she were a bug, inspected and deemed unworthy by piercing hazel eyes, and she hadn't even said hello yet. The man was gorgeous in a rugged, sulky kind of way, she supposed, but the unpleasant sneer of his thin lips and the distinct arrogance put her back up. He hadn't spoken, and she already knew she was not going to like him. He tucked a lock of the dark brown hair that brushed the hard line of his fashionably stubbled jaw behind an ear as he turned his attention to her father. His thick eyebrows were stern and turned down into a dark frown. She glanced over at her brother to get affirmation of her dislike, but Coop had wide eyes on him. "Have the help bring my bags to my room." It took a moment to work past the pure hoity-toity quality of his accent to realise what he'd said. Shah's mouth dropped. Her father cleared his throat. Those are my children, Charlotte and Cooper." There was an awkward silence as the professor inspected first Shah and then Coop, then dismissed them with a sniff. "And where is your study, Jack?" Clearly out of his depth, her father stammered. You don't need to rest? You flew all the way from England." Impatient, Professor Payne shook his head, his soft-looking hair floating above his shoulders like silk. Shah could only blame that on some excellent hair products. Surely that couldn't be all natural. "I'm aware. A 20-hour flight and a 3-hour drive to get here is nothing." The professor then glanced at Coop, and for a second it seemed like his eyes were more gold than hazel. His lip curled up. "With my stamina, I can be up for days." Charlotte's mouth dropped again as she made eyes at her brother. Had the uppity arse from England just flirted with her brother? Coop's eyes boggled back at her. The professor's tone had been so cold. She couldn't be certain, but also maybe? She then tapped at the corner of her mouth, and Coop quickly swiped the bit of drool there. "Your study, Jack? We have work to complete," the professor repeated, this time with an edge of impatience. Shah felt sorry for her bamboozled father, who sent an apologetic look their way before he started off down the hallway. Yes, of course. The kids will take care of your bags. This way?" In silence, Shah, with her brother at her side, watched the pair disappear down the murky hall. The books lining either side of the hall had long since spilled out of their father's study to fill the bottom floor of the house. It was hard not to notice the fit of the professor's pants as they disappeared out of sight. They were tight enough to do Cooper proud. "So he's a tasty piece of repulsive," Coop said as he crossed the foyer. He shut the door firmly. The luggage remained pointedly on the doorstep. Shah strolled to the table where she had left her book. She stroked the cover fondly, the Greenwich Grimoire. She had read it cover to cover several times, but there were so many ideas in there for what she could do with herbs and plants in her garden. A witch, after all, needed her potions. "I'm not sure if I want to throw up in my mouth or drool," Shah replied. "Oh, wait," she grinned, evil to the core. "You already did the drooling." "Shut up. You noticed he's gorgeous too. My boy parts don't care if he's the worst person on the planet." The help. What a dick. Shah murmured in agreement. Her attention diverted as she opened the front cover of her book. Her hand stroked fondly over the name inscribed on the cover page. Lily Whitton. The empty hole in her heart where her mum should have been twisted and ached for a moment. No matter how many friends, boyfriends, or family members she had around her, Shah had never found that something that would fill that void within her. She wondered if she ever would. Charlotte jumped as her pocket began to vibrate. Surprised out of her reverie, she reached under the gauzy moon and star top she wore into the oversized pocket in her skirt. "It's Lena," she said to her brother before she answered. Her best friend Lena swam at 5 a.m. every day. It was odd for her to be up so late. "Hello?" "Shah." Lena was sniffing, her voice hoarse. Mace is missing. Shah dropped her precious book in shock, and almost her phone too. Mace was Lena's older brother, 3 years older than Lena. They had hung out enough that Shah considered him a friend. These days he worked down at the petrol station during the week and played provincial rugby every other minute he could. Rumour had it he had caught the eye of 2 of the franchise teams with his play this past season. The pay bump would be a big deal for his family, and the spotlight great for his career. What? Shah couldn't quite fathom the words. How could he be missing? Coop snatched her phone from her hand and put it on speaker, then passed it back. Lena's tears were audible and her voice tight with emotion. He didn't come home like he normally would. Her usually stoic best friend broke into a sob, and Shah's heart broke a little for her. We rang Tama at the petrol station, and Mace never showed for his shift. Shah gasped at that, real worry coursing through her like hot acid. He would never just not show up for a shift. The guy had to be practically chained to his bed when he was sick. He was so determined to fulfill any and all obligations. Lena was the same way. She never let you down. I know. He's so responsible. I'm scared, Shah. Lena sniffed, her voice jelly-like. Something must have happened to him. Lena, honey, we'll be right there, Shah said. She didn't care if she got no sleep for school tomorrow. This was more important. Shah hung up with a goodbye and took off down the hall at a sprint, Coop hot on her heels. Dad, Shah panted as she stopped in the doorway. Her dad stood beside his desk, leaning over the guest from hell who had claimed her father's chair. Lena's brother Mace has gone missing. We're going over there right now. Her dad straightened, his eyes wide and his face pale underneath his tan. What? He shot a quick look at the professor and cleared his throat. Something he did when he was trying to get time to gather his thoughts. What happened? I imagine that if they knew what had happened, he wouldn't be missing, their dad's research partner said with a good amount of snoot. It rubbed Shah exactly the wrong way. Now is not the time to get distracted, Jack. Their dad frowned. Shah opened her mouth to blast the Ponzi idiot out of the house, but it was Coop who spoke first. A missing friend is not a distraction, it's the priority, Coop said with a coldness in his voice Shah really heard. It wasn't often that Coop got truly angry, but she fiercely adored her brother in that moment for the way he cared. You are the unwanted distraction. You need to butt out. Yeah, Shah added with a jab of her finger. Kids, Dad said as he put a hand on each of their shoulders and turned them around. He guided them out of the study with one last look over his shoulder at his horrible research partner. What do you know about Mace? He asked once they were all clear of the professor and his steely hazel gaze. Why are you working with him? Coop asked, a muscle clenching in his jaw, his eyes on the study door behind them. He knows more about my field of research than anyone else on the planet. But don't worry about him. Mace, what happened? Shah put a hand on her brother's shoulder and they shared a look. She took a deep breath. He followed suit and they exhaled together. It was a calming exercise they had done since they were kids, and it yet to fail. The tight sense of tension Shah felt radiating from Coop dissipated. As calmly as she could, Shah filled their dad in on the details. We want to go over there and help, search, hug, pass out coffee, whatever needs to be done. Dad frowned, his hair more pepper than salt in the dull hallway light. He stared hard at Shah in a way that had her shifting her feet like she'd just gotten caught doing something on the parental do-not-do list. He left early for his shift, before dawn? I don't know, Shah said, thinking. He usually goes out for a run before work, I think, so maybe? Where does he run? Shah shared a glance with her brother, his eyes saying the same thing she was thinking. What's going on with her dad? I don't know, she said slowly, watching her dad carefully. He looked between his 2 kids with an expression Shah couldn't quite read. There's nothing I could say that would keep you home right now, is there? Maybe the better question should be, why do you think we should stay home, Dad? Coop asked sharply. Do you know something? No. Their dad took a breath, then repeated himself, this time without the harsh vibe. No, I don't. I just don't want anything to happen to either of you. The thought terrifies me. Shah's confusion at her dad's attitude softened. Dad, we'll be okay, I promise. Yeah, Dad, we won't do anything stupid, Coop added. Stick with your brother, okay? Don't let him out of your sight, and drive safe, will you? He directed that at her brother. Shah hadn't yet mastered the art of passing her driver's test. Shah scrunched up her nose at that and dodged the needling elbow her brother tried to land on her. I'm the glue. He's the paper. That explains the smell, Coop said, then ducked out of reach before Shah could land a punch on his arm. Rolling his eyes, their dad disappeared back to his study. We'll need our coats and flashlights, Coop said. Do you know where the torches are? Yeah, bottom drawer in the kitchen, I think. I'll grab those and my coat. Meet you in the car in 2? Deal. Coop ducked off toward his room upstairs while Shah pulled her coat out of the hall closet. Coop didn't like to crowd his jackets in the hall closet with everybody else's. Shah stared sightlessly at the jumble of outerwear, trying to shake the hinky feeling that something was off about her dad. After a minute, she shook it off as her imagination. Why would her dad know anything about Mace's disappearance? Their dad was right to be concerned, not just because of Mace, but because of what everyone knew and wasn't saying. Mace wasn't the first teenage boy to go missing from Whitehollow.